Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you had a wonderful winter break. This week, we are going to work through lessons 57 through 60. So let's get started. This week, you're going to need your lessons manual, the student worksheets, the math card games manual with the game cards, the dry erase board, the abacus tiles, the base 10 picture cards, the place value cards, the centimeter cubes, and the 30-60 triangle. This week, we are going to work on subtracting two-digit numbers. We will also be having a review lesson, and we're going to start working on a fabulous section in Level C, the geometry section. Let's start by turning to lesson 57. The warm-up section will review material that was covered in lesson 56. Now, this feels like it was a long time ago, so you may want to discuss this section a little bit more than normal to help your child remember what they learned prior to the winter break. The first paragraph of the warm-up is going to ask your child how many equations there are when you're subtracting from 10. Now, if they don't remember, they don't know, have them write out all of the equations, like 10 minus 0, 10 minus 1, 10 minus 2, and so forth. And then they're going to find out that there are 11 equations if they're subtracting from 10. Then you're going to want to ask them to compare the number 11 and the number 10, and what's the difference? Then have them apply that concept to the next question, which is how many equations are there when subtracting from 100. The next section the next part of the warm-up section will have you build the part whole circles, leaving one of those circles blank. Your child is then going to complete the circles and then write both an addition problem as well as a subtraction problem from the information they got from the circles. Now, if your child struggles with this concept, you may want to review lesson 56 for a quick review. Take a look at the section called Subtracting from Two-Digit Numbers. Here, you're going to write down the problem 64 minus 23, and then have your child solve it. Then ask how they solved this problem, and then discuss the other methods that are listed, some strategies that are listed in the manual that will help the child solve the problem easier in the future. So let me talk to you about the strategies that are shown in the lesson manual. So for the problem 64 minus 23, there are several different methods that are used to describe how to make this equation a little bit easier to think through. One of the strategies that's introduced is that you can subtract just the tens place first. So we're going to subtract the 60 minus 20, which gives us 40. And then we're going to subtract the ones place, 4 minus 3, which gives us 1. And then we're going to add the results. 40 plus 1 equals 41. So 64 minus 23 will be 41. Another strategy is to take a look at adding up. So the first thing you're going to want to do is add 7 to 23 to get to 30, because it's easy to do anything with a round number, right? Like a number like 30. So we're going to add 7 to 23 to get to 30. And then from 30 to 60, we have to add 30 more. But we need more than just 60, we need 64. So now we're going to add another 4. So we're going to take it from 60 to 64. So now we're going to add up all of those elements. We're going to add the 7 plus the 30 plus the 4, which again gets us 41. The next strategy is to make the one place even. So we're subtracting 4 from 4. To do that, we have to add 1 to 23 to make it 24. So now we take 64 minus 24, which is easy to do now, it's 40. But we have to put that 1 and that 40 together because we added the 1 earlier on and then another 40 later on. So that would be 40 plus 1, and that gives us 41. And the final option that you can add, the other strategy, is to just simply use the abacus as shown on the second page of the lesson. Now, I will recommend that you only use the abacus as needed for this problem. You're going to want to encourage your child to think through the problem and solve it without using the abacus. That being said, if your child is a struggling learner, they may need to use the abacus at this point, and if so, go ahead and let them. Now, on the second page, there is another two-digit subtraction problem. 41 minus 29. And again, there are a variety of ways to solve this problem. So let me walk you through those strategies. So here is our problem equation 41 minus 29. Now the reason why this is a little bit different is because in our minuend, the ones place is less than the subtrahend's one place. The 1 is less than 9. So a typical, we'll have to borrow basically. So what we're going to do is talk about different strategies on how we can get to that answer easier. The first strategy listed in the lesson manual is to again add up. We're going to add 1 to 29 to make it a nice round number of 30. Then we're going to add another 10 to take us from 30 to 40. And then we're going to need to add one more to take us from 40 to 41. So 1 plus 10 plus 1 is 12. The next one, we're going to do something similar. We're going to, again, add 1 to 29 just to make it easier, nice, easy round number of 30. But because you added 1 to 29, if we add 1 to 41, we're going to then make an even exchange. So we have 1 to 29, which makes it 30, 1 to 41, which gives us 42. So our equation is actually going to be 42 minus 30, which is much easier to see the answer of 12. So that's another strategy. The next strategy is, again, because there's not enough in the ones place, we need to make some adjustments. So we're going to change the 41 into 30 plus 11 ones. So we're kind of reducing that. We're kind of taking 41 and splitting it up into two groups. So we have 30 and 11 together combined to equal 41. So then we're going to subtract the tens place and the ones place. So we're going to take that 30 and we're going to subtract 20 from the 29 and it gives us 10. And then we're going to subtract the ones place, but our ones place for 41 is now 11. And then we're going to subtract the 9 from the 29. That gives us 2. So 10 minus 2 equals 12. Again, if your child needs to, go ahead and use the abacus. Now, for this example, you're also going to want to show your child the problem to see if they can solve it in two different ways. Now, this is going to be difficult for many kids, but the goal is to expand how to think about problems and to realize that there's more than one way to solve a problem. As you can see, there's numerous ways to solve this problem. Help your child to open their minds to think a little bit deeper and a little bit more strategic. Now, the game for this lesson is Subtracting Two-Digit Numbers game. There is not a blog for this game, but it is fairly easy to play. You will use the basic card deck, and you're going to build two-digit subtraction equations or two-digit subtraction elements from the basic card deck. So you're just basically using your basic card deck to build the subtraction equation. Let's go ahead and turn to lesson 58. In this lesson, you're going to be using a couple of manipulatives that you haven't used in a while. The abacus tiles, which look like this. And you're also going to use the base 10 cards, which are these, which is the 1, 10, hundreds, and thousands. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the questions in the second paragraph of the warm-up section. The first question is an encouragement question. If your child really struggles with confidence, this is a great question to kind of linger on and encourage your child to let them know that everybody makes mistakes. So the question is, who makes errors in math? Everybody. Mom does, dad does, their siblings do, all of their friends do. Everybody makes a mistake in math. So you can use this time, this question, to really encourage your child, especially if they're feeling down upon themselves, that they're not doing a great job in math, or if they feel like they're making a lot of errors. The second question is, how can we find errors? Now, if your child struggles with accuracy, use this question as a springboard to maybe create like a checklist of ideas of how to be more accurate. Some examples for that would be how to double check their work before turning it in, or maybe to slow down, take a deep breath before solving each problem. Or like with my family, Read the directions at least 2 times before solving their problems, etc. Those are some ideas to kind of get you started maybe on a checklist that might help your child be a little bit more accurate with their math. Now, the third paragraph has a list of questions, some problems, subtraction problems that are supposed to be done verbally. However, if your child needs it, especially for those struggling learners, you can go ahead and write those problems on the whiteboard. However, you may want to start stretching your child a little bit by not writing the problems down on the board immediately. Try them verbally, and if they're not able to get it at that point, then go ahead and write the problems on the board. Now take a look at the section called tens in 240. Here you're going to read a problem, and it goes like this. Kim has 240 balloons. Kim's job is to put 10 balloons in each package. So how many packages can Kim fill? Now it's easy to say on a question like this to kind of give your child some hints, something like, so how many tens are in 240? But be very careful in your terminology. If you'll look over at the explanation sections next to that word problem, it says this. The question, how many tens are in 240, is not the same question as in the number 240, how many tens are in the tens place? The first question has the answer of 24, while the second answer has 4. So make sure your child understands what you're asking if you're going to give them these little helpful hints, because you may be guiding them to a whole different answer. So after you read the word problem to your child 2 times or more if needed, let your child think through the problem and then give you their answer, and then also explain how they got the answer. You can let your child use whatever manipulatives they need to solve the problem. It even says that in the lesson manual. So you're going to want to provide them with the abacus tiles, the abacus, the base 10 cards, the place value cards, whatever they need to help them solve this problem. So if they're just kind of staring at the problem and not moving forward and solving it, then you can go ahead and get out a manipulative or 2 to kind of give them an idea of how to solve that problem. Also, don't forget that sometimes it helps, especially with word problems, to take a large numbers in the word problem and make them much smaller. So instead of saying 240, use the word 30 or maybe even 40. So Kim has 40 balloons and her job is to put 10 balloons in a package. How many packages can she fill? Sometimes by shrinking that first number, that will really help your child solve those problems. Now the rest of the page shows the various ways you can solve the problem using different manipulatives to think through it. It will show you also how to use the abacus tiles and the base 10 cards in relationship to this problem. Now, if your child readily solves this problem, you do not necessarily need to get out all of these manipulatives and work through every single one of these. If you have a strong learner in your home, just go ahead and jump to the top of the next page. However, if your child did struggle, then go ahead and pull out as many manipulatives as they need to help your child comprehend how to solve the problem. Now on the top of the second page, your child will do the exact same thing, but with the number of 960, with another word problem. Now this problem should go much easier. Again, let them use whatever manipulatives are needed for your child to think through it. Under the section called practice, you are given 6 more numbers for your child to practice this concept. You will want to get to the point where your child does not need the manipulatives to figure the answer out. That means you may need to add some extra numbers for them to practice with. But if you have a strong learner in your home, you may not need to do every single one of these practice problems. So kind of use your judgment where your child is. Now, underneath the practice section, you're also going to see that they will use the place value cards to help solve this problem. Go ahead and do this activity with the place value cards to help your child understand that concept. You may even want to go back and use the place value cards with those previous problems, the 240 and the 960, just to kind of help your child understand it, especially if they were kind of struggling to get that. Now take a look at the section subtracting from hundreds. Here you're going to give your child the problem 140 minus 83. Now, many kids are going to want to just sit down and solve this problem on paper using the traditional method where they're going to cancel, carry, borrow, or cancel, borrow, and then do the regular subtraction. If that's the case with your child, stop them and have them walk through the problem in various ways based on what you've covered previously in the lesson. You're going to want your child to think through how to solve this problem differently and maybe even creatively. This is going to help your child grow in their maturity in thinking and evaluating problems so that future problems are going to be easier to solve. Once you work through and talk through this problem, then go ahead and give your child worksheet 27. Now, the instructions mention that you are to let your child use the abacus when necessary, but I'm going to say try to have your child do the problems, as many problems at least, as they can without it first. That way you're encouraging your child to use the strategies and then not relying on the abacus, except for to use it as a strategy. So seeing what they can do without it. If your child starts expressing frustration, or if you have a struggling learner, then go ahead and let them use the abacus. But again, see if they can do any of the problems without the abacus first. After they finish completing the worksheet, then go ahead and give them the abacus if they don't already have it, and then go ahead and check their work and make sure their numbers or their answers are correct. The conclusion section of this lesson, you're going to actually verbally ask subtraction problems to your child. Keep them verbal if possible, unless you absolutely need to write them on the board for struggling learners. Sometimes you just need to put those on the board, but try to do one or two without writing them down on the board to see if your child's able to think through it. There is not a math card game listed for this lesson, so you're going to want to pick a game that will work on something that your child is struggling with. Or you can go ahead and play the subtracting two-digit numbers, which was a game that you played for lesson 57. Well, let's go ahead and turn to lesson 59. This is a review day. So you're going to want to give your child either worksheet 28A or 28B. Not both worksheets at the first sitting. The second worksheet is there for you to use if you want to provide an additional quiz in days to come. Or if you find that your child struggles with this worksheet or sections of the worksheet, go back and review lessons that cover the material that they struggled with. And then later on, go ahead and give them that second worksheet for them to complete, just to make sure that they got the material down, if you wish. Now, the first three problems on this worksheet are verbal problems. Again, you're going to want to, as I always say, read through the problems at least 2 times. If you have a struggling learner in your home, go ahead and write that problem down on the whiteboard if your child needs it to be written down. Okay, so I'm going to give you the list of lessons that you can review if your child struggled with any problems on this worksheet. So if your child struggled with problems 1 through 3, which those are the verbal questions, go ahead and play a math card game to review those math facts. For problem 61 minus 9, you can also review lesson 53. For problem number 4, which is the 67 plus 25 plus 13, you can review lessons 22 and 42. That is a combination concept question, so you may need to review one or both of those lessons. If your child struggled with problem number 5, which is the question 5 by 4, review lessons 36 and 37. For problem 6, which is the 47 minus 9, you can review lesson 53. For problem 7, which is the perimeter and area question, review lesson 38. For problem 8, which is the multi-digit addition problem, review lesson 55. Or if you find that your child is struggling with the idea of multi-digit addition, review lessons 28 and 29. For problem number 9, 42 minus 28, review lessons 54, 57, and 58. For problem 10, which is 100 minus 63, you can review lesson 56. Problem number 11, 100 123 minus 49, review lessons 57 and 58. For problems 12 through 14, which are the comparison problems on the left side of the worksheet, review lessons 26 and 34, or play some math card games to work on those math facts. Problem 15, which is the centimeter problem, you can review lessons 37 and 38. For problems 16 and 17, which are also comparison problems, but on the right side, review lessons 26 and 34, or again, play math card games to work on those math facts. For problem 18, which is the last problem of the worksheet, review lessons 57 and 58. The math card game for lesson 59 is Harder Difference War. We do have a video blog for this game. It is combined with a video blog for the easier game of Difference War. And you can view both of those blogs by going to our website and searching for Winter Games Difference War. Go ahead and turn to lesson 60. If your manual was printed in 2019 or before, there is a correction listed for this lesson. So make sure you go and make the changes prior to starting to teach this lesson. Now, this is the first of many lessons that is going to teach and use geometry. There are several terms used in this lesson that might be new for your child, maybe even new for you as well. So make sure that as you introduce a new term, that you have your child repeat the word after you. Now, the lesson will have you explain to your child what the term means. However, for most children, that will not help them learn or remember the definition long term. So you may want to have your child look up the word in their math dictionary, or write the term down with the dictionary and write down the definition as well to help them learn and remember that term. Now, the warm-up starts with some verbal equations. Try to have your child solve these problems as you verbally ask them. However, you can write them on the board if your child needs them to be. The second paragraph of the warm-up is a word problem that your child is going to solve on the whiteboard. Now, you're going to want to read the problem to them at least 2 times, probably more than that. And then you're going to want to encourage your child to solve the problem using part-whole circles. Part-whole circles are a fabulous tool to use for word problems. So you're going to want to get your child in the habit of using them whenever they see a word problem. Now, the last paragraph, you're going to have your child write down 2-digit subtraction problems and then solve them. If they struggle with this activity, you may want to play the game subtracting 2-digit numbers again today at the end of this lesson. Look at the section called Introducing Polygons. You're going to first draw the 3 polygons under that section, the one that says 4 vertices, 3 vertices, and 5 vertices, and draw those on a whiteboard. And then you're going to introduce the term polygon. Have your child repeat the term polygon, and then tell them that a polygon is a closed figure with straight lines. You may even want to have your child draw their own example of a polygon to kind of help them remember it. It is helpful, again, for your child to write down the definition. So you can have them do that in a math journal of terms, or what I did in my home is I just got index cards and I write the term out and let the child write the definition out. Okay, the next section is called vertices, which is plural for the term vertex. And basically a vertex is the point in the shape where 2 lines meet. Let me show you what I mean. So here we have a square and a triangle. A vertice is basically this point, these points on the shape, and the triangle over here. Those are called vertices, or if I'm just pointing to one, vertex. Now, when you introduce the term vertex, have your child repeat the word, look it up in the dictionary, and write the definition out, maybe even with pictures, to help them remember it. The next section is called diagonals. Now, your child may already be familiar with the term, but in math it means a little bit different. Take a look at the explanation section on the very bottom of that first page. It says, in everyday usage, a diagonal is a slanted line. one that is neither horizontal nor vertical. For example, a street that does not run true north and south or east and west is referred to as a diagonal street. In geometry, on the other hand, a diagonal is a line in a polygon joining two non-adjacent vertices. The mathematical definition for diagonal is a line drawn between two vertices. Now, there is an example shown in the lesson manual. Actually, it's under the section called Introducing Polygons. You can see it over on the right-hand side of that. And then there's also two more examples at the bottom of the first page. Again, have your child repeat the term, look it up in the dictionary, and then write out the definition. The activity will have your child draw a shape or a square and then draw a diagonal line within it. And then they're going to twist the drawing board, their drawing of the shape with the diagonal, so that the diagonal line will be horizontal. And then they're going to twist it again to make the diagonal line vertical. Now, those terms may also be new to your child. And if so, take a second to explain the difference between horizontal, which is like straight across, like the horizon, and vertical, which is straight up and down. Now, at the top of the second page of the lesson, you're going to give your child worksheet 29. On the worksheet, there are two pentagons. Now, a pentagon is a five-sided shape. On this worksheet, your child is going to learn to use the 30-60 triangle. So let me show you the triangles and why we call this one the 30-60. So you'll have two triangles in your math materials. This one is the 30-60 triangle. Notice you have the 90-degree angle here. This angle here is 60, and this angle here is 30. That's why we call it the 30-60 triangle. Now, the other triangle that you might confuse it with at first is called the 45 triangle. Now, this again is the 90-degree angle, and both this angle and this angle are both 45 degrees. That's why they call it the 45 triangle. But the one you're going to use for this lesson is the 30-60 triangle, the one that has a really narrow angle up here on the top. Now, towards the end of the second paragraph on the second page, you're going to talk about angles, which is another term in your lesson. So make sure you have your child repeat the term, look it up in the dictionary, and then write it out. The third paragraph on the top of the second page will have you demonstrate how to use the triangle to draw a line between two different points. So let me show you what that will look like. So here's a demonstration on how to connect the dots with a line by using your 30-60 triangle. Here's the 30, here's the 60, and here's my 90-degree angle. I'm going to choose to use the long side because it gives me more room to work with. I'm just going to basically line up my 30-60 triangle and then draw the line across. Then your child is going to draw diagonals on the first pentagon. Let me show you how that will work. So what your child is going to want to do on worksheet 29 is to connect the dots on this pentagon here. Now, obviously, these dots are already connected, so you don't need to worry about those. But you're going to want to connect all of the other dots. So you're going to line it up, and I always like to use a mechanical pencil. It's a little easier to line up. Although these are large dots, so they work fine with a regular pencil as well. So we're going to connect those dots, and then we're going to connect these two dots. And then we're going to go to the next section, and we're going to connect these dots. We're going to do the same thing for the bottom ones. And there you have the star. After that, you're going to demonstrate how to extend the lines. So let me show you what that might look like. Okay, so now I'm going to demonstrate how to extend the line. So again, I'm going to line up my T-square, but I'm going to actually line it up to the line itself, so that when I draw my next line, my extensions, it lines up. So I'm going to draw from that side and then on this side. But I'm also going to double check and make sure that I'm lined up in that center. So here's the line and the extension. Then you're going to have your child extend the lines on the pentagon inside the circle. That's the second one on the worksheet. So let me show you what that's going to look like. Okay, so the second part of worksheet 29 is a little bit harder to be completely accurate with. So you're going to want to add some grace to their activity. So what you're going to want to do, or what they're going to want to do, is line up this triangle to this line as close as possible, and then go all the way, continue that line straight out all the way to the edge of the circle. And they're going to do that for each of these lines. Now when I'm doing this, I'm trying to line up my pencil and the triangle at the same time so that it hits that line as close as possible. All right. And as you can see, I'm not completely accurate there. And the last line. There. And so their final project will look similar to that. Now, many children really enjoy their creations. If you want, they can color in the stars, use colored pencils, color segments of the star, and you may even want to display their work of geometry on the refrigerator or somewhere else in their house to encourage them and let them know that you're enjoying their work of geometry as much as they are. The conclusion will have your child review the terms that were introduced in the lesson. Go ahead and let them use their definition sheets or cards that they wrote during the lesson to answer those questions if they need it. There is not a math card game for this lesson, so you're going to want to pick a game that will review material that your child needs to review. That's it for the week. If you have any questions or concerns about a lesson, or if your child is struggling with something, give us a call or email us. We're here to help. I look forward to seeing you next week as we cover lessons 61 through 64. Have a great week, everybody.